Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. So it looks like we're going to get something that I'm pretty sure most of us didn't expect to happen. Tyson Fury and AJ, looks like everything's agreed on. They're going to be fighting December 3rd. It's going to be a 60-40 purse split. And the rematch is going to be a 50-50 purse split. So that, to me, was the major hanging points going into these negotiations. But there it is. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think Joshua wins. I understand the odds. I understand Tyson Fury. I understand what Tyson Fury did with Wilder, how he made Dillian Whyte look. And Tyson Fury is just a guy who hasn't lost. So how do you beat someone like that? 6'9", obviously developed this newfound power. Has a really good coach in Sugar Hill. But I'm going to go ahead and say this is a dangerous fight for AJ getting in there with the Gypsy King. And everyone who thinks Tyson Fury is going to win, I understand. But I'm going to go ahead and go against the grain because I'm looking at the dynamics of this whole fight. And with AJ, look, let's be real. He should have never lost to Ruiz. Let's be real. He should have never lost to Usyk in that first and second fight. I understand how talented Usyk is. But AJ wasn't able to let his hands go the way he wanted because of a mental block, really. It wasn't really much of what the opponent was doing. Although the opponent and Ruiz did enough, he landed the one shot to throw him off balance, and then Usyk is just very, very deceptive and very intelligent. But AJ didn't give himself a chance to really to leave it all in the ring. You've seen it with Adrian Broner, you've seen it with AJ. And we're going to see with Triple G and Canelo if Triple G leaves it all in the ring this time. Because at the end of the day, a guy like AJ, if he loses to Tyson Fury, that's kind of what people expect. But I don't think he's going to want to be in a position where he feels like he loses his right to complain because he didn't put forth his best effort. I think he's like, F it. If I lose, so what? Nobody expects me to win anyway. I'm going all out. And if he loses by knockout, it really doesn't matter. Okay? Go in there and give yourself the best chance. It's like Deontay Wilder. Yeah, people may have the way they feel about Deontay Wilder as far as excuses and whatever, but that third fight, unless you're just a miserable person who just dislikes Deontay Wilder for whatever reason, refuses to give that man credit, no one can say that he didn't try his best in that third. That third fight, man, he and Tyson Fury elevated each other. And I think in this fight, I think what Tyson Fury did is he picked a British Deontay Wilder with more skill. And that's what you got in AJ. I really do think going into this fight. This is essentially a third fight for Joshua to try to rid those two losses. And he's going to go in this fight similar like Deontay Wilder going into a third fight. It just so happens Deontay Wilder's 3 fights with Fury. Joshua's first 2 were with Usyk, but now he's going in there with Fury. But it's still a third fight for him. And he's going to want to correct that. And I think in this third fight, where he wants to get a win, he's going to leave it all in the ring. And whether he wins or loses, I think he and Tyson Fury are going to elevate each other. But Anthony Joshua, he's a hard puncher. Yeah, Deontay Wilder is probably the hardest puncher in boxing history for the heavyweights. Okay, but Anthony Joshua was a harder fight, in my opinion, because of his boxing ability. And you got to give AJ credit, okay? But the thing is, who's going to coach him? Who's going to develop him? Who's going to train him? Because he can't come in there throwing half-hearted punches and being afraid to commit because what's coming back at him. All right? Usyk's arms weren't as long, and Usyk was getting to him. Tyson Fury can hit you from a mile away, and he can counterpunch, and he can box. He's basically a 6'9" Usyk. But at the same time, Tyson Fury, he's not as agile and uses as many angles as Usyk. So those are things Joshua's not going to have to necessarily worry about. But he's got a big, intelligent man with a very high boxing IQ in front of him. But in Tyson Fury, he doesn't have a Dillian Whyte there. He doesn't have a Deontay Wilder with limited boxing skills. He has someone there who can really fight. And I think he's going to bring a different type of fire into this third fight. And win or lose, someone's going to get knocked out. I just don't see this going to the scorecards. But all the terms on this fight, as far as this fight being agreed to, it was all agreed to last Friday, but the communications were halted due to the passing of the Queen. And you remember a few years ago they had actually went to negotiations. But, there's a few reasons why Joshua took the 60-40 split and the 50-50 in the rematch. Before, when Joshua had all the belts and he and Tyson Fury were negotiating, they were at different ends of the table to where they are now. Joshua was the man in the driver's seat. And, he wanted, in the first fight, the lion's share, and the rematch, he wanted the lion's share. Fury didn't quite agree with that, but he went with all the terms. He was like, whatever, I'll beat him both times. So with AJ this time, initially it was 60-40 split, but Hearn was pushing in the rematch, if Joshua wins, to have it 60-40 in Joshua's favor, which would have made it a 50-50 split. And that's not at all what Joshua's, when it comes to AJ and how he's negotiated in the past with fighters, when he was in the driver's seat, he would never give any challenger if AJ got a 60-40 split in the first fight, if the challenger won that fight, AJ would never go into the second fight giving the challenger 60% and him taking 40, because over those two fights it's 50%. AJ and Hearn said, hey, I get the lion's share in the first fight, I get basically the same split in the second fight. We're giving you an opportunity, take it or leave it. And fighters would get frustrated, but they were like, if I want a shot at the titles, I got to take these horrible terms where in two fights, he still gets paid as a champion. It's not until if I beat him the second fight, then I'm in the driver's seat and I can do what I want. And that's just shrewd business. And it's smart on Hearn and Joshua's part. But roles have been reversed now, and they didn't want to take that deal. But I guess AJ's told Hearn, because Hearn was still pushing for AJ to not accept the 60-40 in the first fight, and to not even accept a 50-50. He still wanted AJ to get the lion's share in the first and second fight. So I'm glad that the fight wasn't derailed because of Hearn's greediness. AJ did the right thing, in my opinion. He knows the position he's in. And for those of you out there who are saying, well, AJ's a bigger draw, okay, I get all that. But look at this. He's lost twice. He has no belt. And as far as his rankings in these organizations, he's dropped. He's gone from being a champion to being ranked, like in particular for the WBC, being ranked number 6 in the WBC. This man went from being in the WBC already. We know how to feel about Tyson Fury and Wilder, but the WBC ranked him as number 6. How the hell are you going to, I don't know. I just don't think he should be ranked number 6, but as the first time ever that Joshua, who's age 32, has been ranked like that. I just think it's a foul and a slap in AJ's face. I get it. He could have done better in the Usyk fights. He looked fantastic in the second fight, got tired, and that's what caused him to fight. But to just come now and to just treat him like he's an average Joe, that he's not. And I just think that's foul. But it is what it is, man. Frank Warren is supposed to be sending a contract over there to Joshua today, and they should get it all agreed to, and everything should be firmed up, man. But it's crazy, man. But when it comes to this whole thing, that fight date was a big issue, but now they're doing it December 3rd in Cardiff, and we're gonna see what happens, man. I think without the lofty ranking, the fight would need a special dispensation, as the WBC has a long list of contenders. And that's the other thing that a lot of people are looking at is, hey, how is AJ just able to slide in here and fight Fury? Well, Fury can make a voluntary defense against who he wants. And everybody's all about money. So if it makes money, it makes sense, right? So that's how AJ is able to slide in there and get a shot at Fury. Now, if he beats Fury, AJ becomes a man. And then for sure, you could end up seeing AJ and Wilder, or AJ against somebody in that top 15 with a WBC ranking, because the WBC has a lot of really good contenders in that top 15, those top 15 positions. So we'll see we'll see exactly how that all plays out. But it's pretty interesting, man. AJ and Joshua are pretty close in age. 34 for Fury, 32 for Joshua. Fights, Fury's had 33, Joshua's had 27. Wins, Fury's had 32 wins, AJ's had 24. Losses, 0 for Fury, 3 for Joshua. Draws, 1 for Fury, 0 for AJ. Knockouts, out of 33 fights, 32 wins, Tyson Fury's had 23 knockouts. For Anthony Joshua, out of 27 fights, 24 wins, he's had 22 knockouts. Fury 6'9", Joshua 6'6". Fury's 18 stones, Joshua 17 stones. The belts, WBC for Fury, AJ has none. They're both orthodox, and it is going to be an interesting fight. So just wanted to put that in front of you guys, man. Cool heads were able to kind of come together. Frank Warren's son and Eddie Hearn, and sit there and have a discussion, because Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren can't stand each other. And they sorted things out, man. But Fury's broadcaster, BT Sport, they've also been convinced by the champ to consider forming a deal with Joshua's DAZN app, which is what's going to have to happen. So if you're looking at first, and the purse is going to be like 80 million pounds, split 60-40 for AJ and Fury. And then you got to expect there's going to be some kind of pay-per-view price point. You look at Canelo and Triple G, it's $84 to buy that fight. With Joshua and Fury, I don't know how they're going to sort that out, but I don't expect it to be cheap. I don't expect it to be cheap at all, man. But we're going to see how it happens. But Fury will start his dedicated fight-focused training in 3 weeks, regardless of who he's facing. And we know right now it looks like it's going to be AJ, but Joshua has already been out there training at the Loughborough University, and he started on Monday. Now, when you think about that, Joshua, what was he training, like 8 months, 9 months, getting ready for Usyk? Just had a pretty tough fight, going right back into training. Now, this is where potentially excuses could come down if Joshua Fury loses Anthony Joshua loses to Tyson Fury. Because it's just, I mean, sometimes your body needs to rest, and just to go non-stop, and get in the ring. Sometimes, man, you just can't perform. You get cramped up. Things happen. Or it could work to your benefit because he doesn't have to kill himself as hard in the gym. He killed himself in training for Usyk, and he should still be in decent shape. So it's just a continuation, but not necessarily starting from ground zero and building his way up. So I think it's going to be, Joshua stands a very good chance in this fight. But at the end of the day, you got to understand Fury being the favorite. But I just think Joshua, just like what we're going to see with Triple G here, just don't care. You have nothing to lose. Whatever. People expect me to lose anyway. I just think he's going to go balls to the wall and let those hands go. And we already know what Fury brings to the table. But I'm excited for this fight. I am. Hopefully, there's no other sticking points. It seems like the purse split, the date, and the venue, all that's been sorted out. Let's just hope Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren don't get into it and mess it up, or something else, man. But anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out to everybody. And I am in the breeze. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention to you. Luis Ortiz is trying to get in the mix with these two. And Eddie Hearn is saying that if the Tyson Fury fight doesn't work out, Luis Ortiz is in the running to get the shot at AJ. Isn't it amazing how things work out? But again, as always, y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.